I believe every argument boils down to one thing, and I'm going to tell you what that is today. And I'm also going to tell you how you can change everything, even though nothing changes at all. Hi, I'm Kelly Case, licensed counselor and marriage expert. I take marriages that are broken and unfulfilling and make them first class, so you can love life together. This channel is for you if you want a happier home, but you're just not sure how to get it. Be sure to click that subscribe button so you can be notified whenever I upload anything new. I remember when I was a small child, my grandma showed me this picture. And she asked me if I saw a young lady or an old lady. And I saw a young lady. She said that she saw an old lady. I was flabbergasted. And then she showed me her perspective, and I could see it too. This was one of my very first realizations that not everyone sees things in the same way. Likewise, this picture made its rounds on social media a few years back, asking followers, do you see a black and blue dress or a white and gold dress? I clearly saw a black and blue dress, and I couldn't see how anybody could see a white and gold dress. But those who saw white and gold said that they couldn't believe that I saw a black and blue dress. Okay, so our eyes can play tricks on us. The rods in our eyes can make different people see different colors. But when it comes down to human decency, such as whether or not something is true or false, good or bad, right or wrong, possible or impossible, we should all agree. We should all see things the same way, right? Because it's common sense. Well, if you've been living on this earth very long, you have found out that the answer to that is a big fat no. We see how divided people are on social media or on the news. There are people who truly and firmly believe that we should let anyone and everyone who wants to come into our country. And then there are those who truly and firmly believe in a secure border and a process for allowing immigrants into the country. There are people who firmly believe that if a child says that they want to be another gender, they feel like they're a boy or they feel like they're a girl, that we should take them to the doctor and we should give them medication and maybe even mutilate their genitals. And then there are those of us who firmly believe that children are often confused and are still learning their identity, and they have a big imagination, and that they should embrace the gender that God created them to be from conception. As you know, those are just a couple of examples of the many contentious topics that we as humans disagree on. This is not meant to be a political talk. On a much smaller scale, some people think that it's okay to let your baby cry it out, and some people don't. Some people think that it's okay to read Harry Potter, and some people don't. Some people think you should let your kids watch SpongeBob SquarePants, and some people don't. Some people believe in spanking, and some people think that it's abuse. The list is endless. And yet, when we are with a close friend or with our spouse and we find out that they think differently than us about something that we see as definitely right or definitely wrong, or something that we see as common sense, we're often shocked. What? You don't think like me? I was sure that we would feel the same way about this. Why were you sure? You were sure because you assumed that they think like you. We think people think like us in politics and love and everything, but they don't. And I think that every argument boils down to one thing. Why can't you be more like me? I'm right, you're wrong, and you need to see it the way I do. And if I bring it back to marriage, back to romantic relationships, not only are you two different people with two different ways of seeing and thinking about things, but you are also different genders. And while there are always exceptions to the rule, in general, men think and feel a certain way in marital relationships, and women think and feel a certain way in marital relationships. This is because the male and female brain are wired very differently. I grew up in a mostly female family. My grandpa had 2 sisters, no brothers. Then he had 3 daughters, no sons. And then his first 4 grandchildren, me being number 1, were girls. So I had sisters with no brothers and only female cousins until I was 11. So when it came to boys, I was absolutely clueless. When I started dating, I had no idea that boys thought differently than girls. I thought that we were all looking for a relationship. They were not, at least not at that age. And I had some really hard times because of this misunderstanding. Now that I'm a marriage counselor and married 21 years and have 2 grown sons, I understand boys and men a little too well. But back to my point. Humans have different views on many things in many areas for many reasons, yet most of us think that our view is the right one. In fact, I think that every argument you've ever had with your spouse can be boiled down to one thing. Why can't you be more like me? This is the way I see it. This is the way I feel about it. This is what I think we should do. Why can't you be more like me? Then we would agree, and then all would be well. But the other person doesn't want to be more like you. They want to be more like themselves, and they want you to be more like them. And so there's conflict. How should we deal with this? In previous videos, which I'll link at the end of this one, I've already discussed how to navigate conflict, how to fight fair, how to resolve things. So today I want to zoom out and I want to address this in a deeper conceptual way. So I'm going to give you 3 pieces of advice today in dealing with conflict. In Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he tells a story about his ride in a subway. He said that he was sitting quietly among other folks in a subway car. Some were reading, others were looking out the window, and the only sound was that rhythmic rumbling of the subway train. Then the train made a stop, and a man and his children entered the subway car. Instantly, the noise level changed. The children ran wild, shouting, screaming, and wrestling, while their father simply put his head down and closed his eyes. Frustrated, Covey finally turned to the father and said, "Sir, perhaps you could restore order here by telling your children to come back and sit down?" Oh, I'm so sorry. I guess you're right. I should do something about them, but I'm sort of at a loss right now. I just came from the hospital where their mother died an hour ago, and I guess they don't know how to handle it either. How would you feel if you were on that subway? Those kids are still running wild, but suddenly you're not really annoyed anymore. Everything changed, even though nothing changed. Because sometimes just a bit of information, just a bit of knowledge can change everything, even though our circumstances haven't changed at all. So my first piece of advice when it comes to dealing with conflict is to seek to understand the other person as deeply as possible. Be a student of your spouse. Find out why they do what they do, and know the answer isn't because their mother does it and they're just like their mother. Go deeper. Come on. Let's get real. What does your spouse believe? What do they feel? What do they value? What do they want? Why do they really do what they do? Why did they say what they said? What's behind it? Ask questions. My husband and I, we used to butt heads whenever we would talk about the future because I had big business ambitions and I wanted to take big risks financially. I wanted to go for my dreams. I wanted to travel the world. And I would stress him out because he wanted to save money for just in case, and he wanted to take as few risks as possible, and he was perfectly content with the life that we already had. I would accuse him of being unambitious and lazy, and he would accuse me of being irresponsible and discontent. Ouch. Until one day we took like this personality test thing on your primary drives, those things that you value that drive most of your decisions. And my primary drive in life was power and achievement. I'm very ambitious and driven, and I'm driven by the need to always be achieving some new level of success in life. This doesn't mean I'm discontent. I'm very grateful for what I have and where I am in life right now, but I'm excited by the chance to grow and learn every day and always be challenging myself to reach some new level, something more, not because I need it, but because it's fun and I enjoy it. And my husband, on the other hand, he has a primary drive in life of safety and security. The thing that's most important to him is feeling safe and secure. And so he makes his decisions from that, decisions that will lead to that result. So he doesn't want to take risks and he doesn't need to dream big. In fact, when we were discussing the results of our drives test that I'm telling you about, I was digging and picking and asking him questions. And I was like, tell me about your dreams. Tell me about your ambitions. And he said, honestly, the dreams that I had in life were to get married, have a reliable job, own a home, and have money for retirement. If I have that, I'm very happy. My chin dropped to the floor because I cannot imagine settling for only that in life when there is this great big world full of opportunities and experiences just waiting for me to arrive. And he thinks I'm crazy and have a tortured mind. But I'll tell you what, we never argued about that again because now I get it. I actually see it playing out in so many different ways when we're making decisions. And I say to myself, yeah, there's his safety and security drive kicking in. And I accept that about him, just as I need him to continue to accept my drive for power and achievement. If you really seek to understand your spouse, understand why they do things differently than you, you're going to argue less. Your expectations are going to be realistic, so you're going to experience less disappointment. And you will actually be able to anticipate what situations might cause some conflict, and you can prepare for that in advance. Understanding why your spouse does the things they do changes everything, even though it changes nothing at all. My second piece of advice is to accept your spouse for who they are. I don't mean to accept poor or abusive behavior, but accept the fact that they're different than you. They have different desires, different values, and different drives. Chances are you won't change them. You can only control you. You can't change them. You can only try to understand them, support them in being the best version of themselves, and then just let them be who they are. If your wife is scatterbrained, no amount of scolding her and asking her why she can't be more responsible like you are is going to change things. Her brain works the way it works. Can you support her with helpful tricks and tools? Yes, maybe. But being frustrated with her, yelling at her, and putting her down aren't going to change a thing. This is the woman that you married. Balance out her weakness with your strength. If your husband is perfectionistic, no amount of rolling your eyes at him or forcing him to just deal with things is going to change him. His brain works the way it works. Can you ask him to give you some slack, some grace in certain areas? Sure. But you're not going to change him. This is the man you married. My last piece of advice is to compromise. Like I said, most conflict occurs because we want the other person to be like us. We want them to understand how we see it, and then they'll see the light and they'll become like us. But this doesn't usually happen. So not only do we need to understand why our spouse does what they do and accept them for who they are, but you're going to also need to find out some way to resolve the conflict so that you can both feel okay about the situation. This is where compromise comes in. Compromise will be much easier to reach if you've already done the, okay, I understand you and I accept you part. But so long as you're thinking that they're crazy and they need to be changed, you're never even going to enter into a productive conversation about compromise. Compromise involves brainstorming solutions. Brainstorming solutions where you can meet in the middle. What are all the possible solutions and which of them can you both agree on? You want to validate each other's feelings and validate each other's differences and say, okay, in light of our different views, what is a way that we can meet in the middle? My hope for you is that you will become a student of your spouse, learning everything that you can about their inside world, and thereby change everything without changing anything at all. To learn more about how to have a first-class marriage, visit me at firstclassmarriage.com. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe, because when you do that, it encourages YouTube to show this content to more people.